Welcome everyone. My name is Gail and today we're gonna flow like water. So just picture a beautiful river with the water dancing around the rocks, or picture the ocean with just soft waves rolling in and out of shore. And even picture a still pond that's reflecting everything around it. So water has this amazing quality to be yielding, but strong, soft, but powerful. And you know that our bodies are more than 50% water? When we were born, they have a higher water content than they do as we age, but still our bodies are between like 55 and 65% water. And did you know that muscle has more water than fat? So that's one reason why people that have more muscle tend to maybe weigh a little bit more than they would if they looked the same size, but it was fat instead of muscle, if that makes any sense. And water is just a wonderful thing to imagine in your body and to be able to move like water. So I want to share a quote from Lao Tzu about water. Nothing is softer or more flexible than water, yet nothing can resist it. So if we kind of if we're flexible in our thoughts, in our actions, in our body, then we are actually more powerful. If we can yield, then we're gonna last longer and be stronger. When you think of a tree, when a tree dies, it doesn't have any water in it, right? And then it cracks and falls down and gets taken down by the wind because it doesn't have any flexibility and mobility. When you look at trees, no matter how tall and strong they are, you can see there's some movement, especially the more wind there is, and that their ability to move with the flow of wind, with the flow of whatever's going on around them, gives them the ability to grow and to last a long, long time. Probably there's older trees than there are humans. But anyway, so I would just invite you to focus on the element of water and how fluid that is and how good that can feel. And, I can't remember if I already said this, but do you know our bones are something like 20% water, 20 to 25% water. So even something that seems really firm and solid has some water in it. So please close your eyes and focus on your breath, moving in and out, softly, gently, yet powerfully. See if you can feel your rib cage move and expand in all directions with the breath. So think of the breath as a spherical movement that moves in all directions, creating all this movement in your body, no matter how still you're sitting. So when the lungs fill up with air, they push on the ribs push on the diaphragm, and the diaphragm pushes on our digestive organs, and the heart is given a little massage with the breath. So the breath has water in it also. We talk about humidity. Is there high humidity or low humidity? But there's always some humidity. Certainly the breath that we're taking in and letting go of. So find that sense of being yielding but powerful. And keeping your eyes closed, you're always welcome to open your eyes, but if you can, keep your eyes closed and start to just move your spine. So move your body, move the spine, just get really creative, have fun with it. Don't think, should I do it this way or that way? Just think of water and movement and power and strength and fluidity. And tapping into that aspect of our body. Because if we're just sitting still in a chair all the time, or, then we become stiffer and things tend to kind of dry out a little bit inside. The fascia, the muscle tissue. So motion is lotion. That's an easy thing to remember. Good, come back to center. And now we're just gonna think of like dividing our spine into 3 segments. So there's the lumbar segment, the lower 5 vertebrae, the thoracic area, which is 12 vertebrae that are attached to our ribs, and then the cervical area, which is our neck. So think of just moving your pelvis a little bit. You might not even be able to see me doing this motion, but instead of a bigger motion that's going to involve the rest of my spine, I'm trying to isolate the pelvis as much as possible. And then find something neutral, kind of like in between the ranges of motion that were available to you in this seated position. And now we'll move the thoracic spine. Again, it's just a little bit of movement. That doesn't mean it's not powerful. Like small little movements sometimes are the most powerful because they teach us how to isolate and to go deeper within like a smaller range of possibilities. But finding more possibility, like just in this small range of motion, just in our spine. Now come back to neutral again, something in between, like as far forward as you could go, as far back as you could go, and we'll move the cervical spine. So lift the back of your head and lift the chin and just go back and forth. And notice how there's a lot of range of motion here. Good, come back to neutral and just move the wrists. So rotate the wrists and figure eights. Just feeling how much movement the wrists are capable of. And let's reverse that figure eight. Nice. Now to kind of lift your elbows up and just shake them a little bit. See how soft and fluid your wrists and fingers can be. Shake it out a little bit. And let's come on to our hands and knees in tabletop. So spread the fingers nice and wide. Make the fingers firm. And we'll play with that same, like feeling the different segments of our spine. So first, just a little bit of tilting back and forth with the pelvis and the lumbar area of the spine. Trying to keep the ribs fairly still, the thoracic spine fairly still. And it's pretty easy to keep the head still when we're just trying to move the pelvis. Now, again, try and see if you can find something that kind of feels halfway in between and start to move the thoracic spine, the ribs, without moving the shoulders too much or without moving the pelvis too much. And this is kind of hard to do because, like, it's interesting if you take a video of yourself and think, oh, I'm just moving my ribs, but you'll see how the pelvis might be moving too because you let the movement become too big. So it's not about the size of the movement, it's more about awareness and getting more in touch with this part of our body that isn't really naturally very flexible in terms of flexion and extension. It's much better at rotation. Now, again, kind of settle into that neutral place in between the edges of the range of motion and just lift your chin and then lift the back of your head. So again, there's a lot more range of motion here in the neck without involving the shoulders or the thoracic spine or the lumbar spine. Well, let's come back to neutral here, and now we'll do everything together. So lumbar, thoracic, cervical, and just notice how much range of motion, and they're all working together. Nice and fluid, powerful but yielding, gliding back and forth. Good, come back to neutral. Reach your right knee up. First, hug your heel in towards your hip. And then externally rotate your leg, your hip. Stretch your leg all the way out to the side and step it forward into low lunge. Start to open your heart up by opening up the chest And then round your spine, pulling back and letting your wrists cross. And open. And kind of close the chest off. And just glide back and forth. Letting the knee come way forward. Letting the ribs move way back. So it is okay for the knee to go past the toes here. And if you notice when you climb upstairs, your knee is going to go past your toes. So sometimes we want to keep the knee like in line with the toes or a little bit behind the toes. And sometimes it's okay to mindfully move back and forth. Next time you're open, keep the knee kind of right over your ankle or a little bit forward of it. Lift your chest toward the sky. Rotate the wrists. And then stretch them way up and back. And bring your hands back down. Step back into your tabletop. Maybe do a couple of cat cows. Or move your spine however you want to move it. Then we'll pick the left leg up. Bend your knee. Draw your heel into your hip. Squeeze. Externally rotate the hip. Straighten your leg and bring it all the way forward, coming into low lunge. And we'll do the same actions here. So as you inhale, arc your heart forward, stretch your knee forward, and as you exhale, round your spine, straighten your leg. And just glide forward and back. Now your right toes can be tucked or pointed. And just see if you can, whoa, kind of tap into the movement of the water. I don't know if you can hear, but there's a creek outside of my backyard, so that little soft gushing sound that you might hear is the creek. Good, last one. And then open your heart up, circle the wrists, and stretch it out. Bring your hands back down, step back into tabletop, and a few more cat cows. Good, tuck your toes, reach your hips back, and lift your hips up into down dog. And start to move your legs in down dog, sending your hips way back to try and take some weight out of your hands. So I feel like every pose is like a process of discovery. And playing around, oh my gosh, playing around, experimenting. And inhale, round forward to plank. And exhale, arch your back and glide back to down dog. And just ripple forward and back. Going at your own pace. And you can kind of like play with working different parts of the body, of your spine. So you kind of do these kind of halfway back and forth. And then full range of motion. Now for the fun of it, if you want to experiment with something different, so I was rounded forward and then arched back. See if you can maybe arch forward and round back. So playing with the movement in a slightly different way. And then stretch way back into your down dog. Come forward, lower your knees down, bend your elbows, lower your chest and chin. Roll forward and up to your cobra. And exhale back. Downward facing dog. Round forward, lower the knees. Start to arch your back as you lower your chest and chin down. Your body forward and through, coming into your cobra. Exhale, lower down. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. We'll do that one more time. So kind of round forward, lower your knees down. Start to arch your back as you lower your chest and chin. Curl forward and up into your cobra. Lower down. Then back to downward facing dog. Again, take a few moments here in your down dog to kind of pedal it out, just feel it out. On your next inhale, step your left foot in a little bit, reach your right leg up high. Reach back through your toes, and then pull your heel to your hip, squeeze it in, squeeze your knee to your chest, step your foot forward, rise up, crescent lunge. Take a moment to ground through your feet, making sure they're hip distance apart to help you balance. And twist to your right. We're just going to circle the arms. So circling the arms, twisting to the left, coming back and twisting to the right. And just creating these full circles. You can always lower your back knee to the floor. And just see if you can, just like, if you love water like I do, just think of that feeling of water, and you're trying to kind of like float like water. So that might mean that you start to get a little more fluid, a little less straight lines, a little more curvy lines. And then rise up into your crescent lunge, full crescent lunge. Float back to downward facing dog. Second side. So it helps to step the opposite leg in a little bit so you get more height. It makes it easier to step forward. So reach back through your toes and hug your heel to your hip, your knee to your chest. Keep your knee and your foot high as you can, and step it forward into crescent lunge. Rise up. Take time to kind of settle in. And then open your heart up toward the sky. And twist to your left. And we'll circle the arms. Twisting from side to side, and maybe getting a little more fluid-like in your upper body. Just kind of play with it. Make it yours. Feel it. So it's not just like going through the motions, it's more like going through your emotions. Just thought of that. So one more. And then arc up and come back to your downward facing dog. Look towards your hands and either walk forward or you could hop forward. Come up about halfway and think of lengthening through your spine. Lift and spread all 10 toes. Keeping the space between your toes as best you can, lower your toes back down. And check out the space between your toes. Press into the mound of the big toe and keep that connection. Then press into the mound of the pinky toe and press into the center of the heel. This is what we call the tripod of the foot. So see if you can keep those 3 points equally weighted. Rise all the way up to stand. And bring your hands together in front of your heart. Just pause. Reflect. Like even with all the movement of water, there's moments of a kind of stillness or a pausing, whether it's an eddy on a river or like the calmness after a storm where the waves are just like barely noticeable. They're more like swells. Or whether it's like the stillness of a pond on a still day with no wind. So imagine that sense of stillness in your body. And we're going to play here with the same like 3 parts of our spine that we were playing with earlier. So little tilts of the pelvis, trying to keep your ribs still, your thoracic spine still. Trying to isolate that. Just what does it take? What muscles does it take? What awareness does it take? You could even place your hands on your low ribs to notice if they're moving. And now find something kind of halfway between those two ranges of motion, and then the thoracic spine. Trying to keep your hips still and the shoulders relatively still. And just notice what that feels like. And now find halfway in between, and then lift the chin, lift the back of the head. Big movement in the cervical spine. And now let's put it all together. So again, be creative here. Let your arms flow. Let your, all of your spine move. Lumbar, thoracic, cervical. And just like make it into a dance. A nice watery dance. And this time it's just our feet are connecting to the ground instead of our knees and our hands. Just the feet. Maybe that gives you like even more possibilities for this like wave-like action. Then just come to a place where you feel centered and grounded, strong and yielding, rooted but with a feeling of freedom. And we're going to play with just kind of circling the hips, letting the knees be really soft, letting the hips circle, and reverse the direction of the circle. We'd come back to neutral again. Now separate your feet a little wider than your hips. And we're going to focus on the kidneys. So the kidneys represent the water element, and they're our energy center, and they filter out toxins. We really need to have kidneys that function well. So we're just going to like do little swinging motions where when I swing to the left, I'm going to tap my right kidney with my left hand, bending into the left knee, and then to the other side. So just using momentum to get a little swing going. And you could slow it down. But again, just nice, fluid, relaxing motion. Kind of bringing a little more awareness into the kidneys, into that water element. And just a couple more, gliding back and forth. Good. Let's come back to center. Face the front of your mat in Tadasana. On your inhale, reach your arms up. And on your exhale, forward fold. Place your hands down, step back into plank. Lower your knees, chest and chin. Curl up and into your cobra. Good, lower back down, tuck your toes. Press up and back to down dog. Then inhale, reach the right leg up. Pull your heel to your hip, your knee to your chest. Stretch your foot forward and rise up. Crescent lunge. And just take a moment here to settle in to your crescent lunge, kind of grounding and moving. And then open up, warrior two. Again, take a moment to range your feet so that you feel nice and strong and stable. Then gaze out over your fingertips. Reach up and back. Reverse your warrior. And then reach your back arm forward, your forward arm back. And just find this gentle swaying movement. And you can bring as much fluidity to it as you want. Maybe bend the elbows and let the wrists kind of extend at the end of your range of motion. Again, there's no right or wrong here. It's just like a process of self-discovery. Balancing stillness and movement, strength and softness. So next time you reach back, reverse your warrior and windmill the arms, step back to your down dog. Take a few breaths here. And then stretch the left leg up. Reach back first, then draw your heel into your hip. Pull your knee into your chest. Straighten your leg, step forward, rise up, crescent lunge. Again, just take a moment to settle in and open up, warrior two. Reach up and back, reverse your warrior, and then glide from side to side. Reaching forward and back. Finding that fluidity, that wave-like motion. One more of these. Then reach all the way back. And windmill the arms. Step back, downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward, and we're going to come into a squat. So adjust your feet however you need to find a squat. Might be, usually it's easier if your feet are a little bit wider and your toes are slightly turned out. But think of lowering your hips, and if your heels don't lower to the floor, that's okay. You could place a folded blanket underneath, or you could keep your heels up. Let your arms reach forward and let your head kind of dangle, feeling a nice opening along the whole back body. And we'll just stay here for a few breaths. And lower your hips all the way to the ground. Bring your feet forward and slowly lower onto your back. And hug your knees into your chest. And just circle around on your hips. Both directions. Then place your feet on the floor. Let your whole back rest on the floor. So back of the ribs, back of the shoulder blades, not the whole thing, but as much as will lie flat on the floor. And we're gonna do some bridge lifts, reaching our arms as we lift our hips up. So think of keeping the back of the shoulders on the floor as best as you possibly can. Lift and spread all 10 toes, sprinkle them down, connect them to the earth, and then pushing into the earth, rise up, let your hips lift as you reach your arms over your head. And think of scooping the tailbone as you slowly lower your arms back down by your sides as your hips lower down. We'll do that a couple more times. Float the hips up, float the arms up, and softly lower the hips and the arms back down to the ground. A couple more times, going at your own pace. Noticing the muscles that you need to engage to be able to create this movement, and yet how the movement itself is soft and flowing and yielding. But we need that strong foundation of our feet, our shoulders, our core, to be able to flow back and forth. All right, so now let everything rest. And pull your knees into your chest. Open your arms out to the side and slowly twist both legs over to the right. Turn your head to the left. And just let everything rest here. Rest and relax. Couple more breaths here. And pull your left hip back to the floor to float your knees up and continue twisting all the way across to the left as you turn your head to the right. Let everything relax. So everything in life needs a balance. A balance of effort and surrender, a balance of strength and yielding, a balance of the inhale and the exhale. And pull your right hip back down to lift your legs up, separate your knees, pull your knees in towards your chest, and grab whatever part of your leg you could reach, whether it's your foot or your ankle or your calf, coming into happy baby, and gently rock from side to side. Nice, slow, easy rocking motions. So you can almost feel like a wave of momentum, just rocking you slowly back and forth, side to side. Good, come back to center. Release your feet, hug your knees into your chest, and maybe lift your chin to your knees. Curl in nice and small. And then spread out for Savasana. Just straighten your legs, let your feet flop open, let your arms open out to the side. And you could do a few little wiggles if you want, any little movements that will help you to feel more comfortable. Close your eyes. And focus more on your exhale than your inhale. Focus on letting go. Notice the feeling of stillness. And at the same time, notice the subtle movements, the beating of your heart, the flow of the breath. All these organs that are mostly water, that are still working or operating to help us on this journey of life. And I'm going to stay here with you for a few more breaths. You're welcome to stay longer if you like. Begin to bring a little bit of movement into your fingers and your toes, maybe your wrists and your ankles as well. And when you're ready, bend your knees and gently roll toward your side. And pause here, just for a moment. And using your hands, gently press and roll your way up to a comfortable seat. Close your eyes and just tune into your breath and that movement, that big circular movement, that wave-like movement of the breath, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. And bring your hands together in front of your heart and bow. Bow towards the earth. Thank you so much for joining me on this practice. I hope that you feel this sense of fluidity, this sense of water, all the water element that is a big part of who you are. And I would love it if you would hit the like button, tell your friends, and most importantly, leave me a comment. Let me know how you felt after this practice. Let me know something that you would like to see in one of my videos. And again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and hope to see you again soon.